All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hire with Eve podcast. I'm your host, Rahul Abhishek. I'm the founder of Hire with Eve, which aim is to reduce hiring time by 90% using our AI tool. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Mr. Sanjay Sinha. Sanjay Sinha is the founder and CEO of Querencia. He has a wealth of experience in HR leadership roles and businesses and has previously served as a group CHRO, executive vice presidents, M&A, SVP, and global head of HR at various MNCs. He is also the director of HR APAC based in Singapore. He's an alumnus of FMS University of Delhi and a certified executive coach. So welcome, Sanjay. Would be great to hear a bit of words about you and how did your journey in the HR domain started?
So thanks again, Rahul. Thanks for having me on your podcast. So I think you have given a pretty detailed introduction of myself. The only couple of things that I would like to add to this is that basically I'm in Delhi. I born, brought up here, studied here, did my graduation, college, MSc, and my MBA from Delhi, and then moved on various parts of the world. But I would say 60% of the time, no, 50% time spent in Delhi, rest in Singapore, Bangalore, Chennai, and very little bit in Chandigarh. And so I understand a lot of things about these places as well. And Asia Pacific role gave me exposure to 16 countries in Asia Pacific, right from anything from New Zealand down to Pakistan and minus Korea, and then the global roles. So they have given me a lot of exposure, and especially the M&A role was very important for me because it gave me a deep insight into how businesses are done, how businesses are acquired, and the due diligence and other things. Currently, I am spending my time in CXO minus one and two hiring, which is a lot good fun because I was always on the other side of the table. Now, given the fact that I have come on the other side of the table now, so it gives me a fair good understanding of the pain points of both the sides of the table. So I can add good value to my customers, clients, and my colleagues, ex-colleagues. I think that's all I want to say at this stage.
Okay. And that is an impressive career and a wide spanning career, Sanjay. One of the first questions that we often ask our guests is a fun question, which is that we believe HR leaders are the superheroes in an organization. So, the perspective that I want from you is what do you think is their special power that an HR professional has? And at the same time, the other side of the coin, what do you think is a kryptonite?
Okay, that's a good question to begin with. So I think HR heroes are always in making because given the way the things are changing in the environment, uh, the changes are too many and too big to handle sometimes. So I would say there are no superheroes, but there are superheroes in making. I currently run a mentorship program for middle and senior HR professionals and the business people, mentoring them. But coming back to your question, if HR were the superhero, its superpower would be its indispensability to the business, not only because they are good HR professionals, but because they bring a good experience across businesses and bring a balanced view on every challenge or a change that is required. Because I think HR is one of the functions that talks across the organization, irrespective of department, groups, teams, and other things. I would love to see these superheroes, big professionals grow up into CEOs of big company. Now, coming to their kryptonite, it would be satisfaction with the status quo and their reluctance to take on new, bigger challenges, especially managing a P&L. I would love to see HR guys also stepping up and managing P&Ls for their company.
Right, right. I mean, that's a very thoughtful insight. Thanks for sharing that. So, going forward, and again, being a leader within the HR domain, and now with your own organization, what has been your vision for the HR role now when it comes to deriving business growth and success?
So, in my experience, I think HR can add a massive value to any organization's or company's decision-making process. My vision has always been that HR leaders need to be seen as active members on the decision-making table, not the mere note takers in the second row of the boardroom. They would be any, they should be the first persons to go to for any CIO. It has started happening, but I guess HR guys need to have a few more miles to cover before they go.
Okay. 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 If I double click on it, when you mention they have still few miles to go before that happens, what do you foresee should happen in order to achieve that kind of goal?
So before you can even aim and think of a CEO's position to head a company, I think HR person need to go around a couple of departments and teams and learn what are the nuances of running a business, nuances of procurement, nuances of finance, a little bit of finance, not too much, and also nuances of what how the market works, how the sales work, how the marketing team works, how does the corporate communication and branding team works. I was lucky that kept raising my hand whenever the roles came up, and I was also lucky in a way that the CEOs and the people I reported to also believed in my capability and gave me those roles. So I would, when I say a few more miles to cover, I would love to see a few more HR guys to go through a rotational training in various departments before they are ready for much higher level positions.
Okay, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And now, as the HR role emerges, and there's a lot going on in the market, how then do you keep yourself updated when it comes to current trends? And of course, then it goes on ahead of you in terms of making the organization also future ready.
So, frankly speaking, Rahul, in today's world, it's a very challenging task. One is getting bombarded from all sides with changes, and then more changes over that, be it social media, be it ERPs, be it AI, be it anything nowadays. So, as an HR leader, you must stay ahead of the emerging trends, not only in HR roles, but also in the related business field in which your company is working. Today's environment, as we know, is dynamic, and AI has changed everything. It has revolutionized the learning, the
Yeah.
data processing, and decision making. So, whether you call it a VUCA world or whatever, those who will not change with time or are late in changing will evaporate like a morning dew. It is critical, therefore, that we attend. So, I would suggest that we read a lot, especially the new articles on HR and technology related to HR. Also attend serious seminars. The operative word here is serious because I'm not referring to seminars where it is for networking, but it is for senior serious learning and training programs at least once a year. Another advice would be innovative and creative. Think of things that others have yet not thought of,
Hmm.
and that will keep you ahead of the curve.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So then, taking that knowledge one step forward to now workforce planning, what is your approach to workforce planning, especially in an unpredictable economy? And now you bring in a really good insight here from your experience working in a large MNC to now in your own company. So, what is your approach to workforce planning?
So, workforce planning has always been a challenge with the companies to decide how much is sufficient and how much is more, how much is less, right? Because if you can cut down the manpower to the bone, then you cross the muscle and get to the bone, which will hurt the company. So it has always been challenging, and it will continue to be a challenge in the times to come. My take is that you need to be careful when you are managing with limited financial resources, but far more careful when you are making tons of money, because it is here where you take your eyeballs off the radar, you take your eyeballs off the P&L and the bottom lines, and then since you never knew what took you up, you will never know what how to correct it when the slide happens. So the way I worked in my previous roles and as well as the new clients today, I suggest dividing any manpower planning into three buckets. First, number one bucket is super critical roles like CXO, CXO minus one and two position. Second bucket is critical middle level positions. And the third thing is good to have people which you can use as NPWs. NPWs would mean non-payroll workers or contractual employees. And in today's world, interim role holders are getting a lot of popularity. So we can use leverage that as well. So this is how I nowadays suggest people to keep a track on their manpower plans and other things.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. A while back, you were talking about how much is happening in the tech world and the AI world and keeping updated with the trends. So, in this kind of organizational structure that you mentioned and overall kind of value chain of the HR domain, what is the kind of tech intervention that you've noticed, and how is the HR domain leveraging technology for further efficiency and employee experience?
So technology has become a part and parcel of everybody's life, and HR is also has not remained untouched and by this technology. And technology, I believe, has completely changed the face of the HR. The new HR ERPs are affordable, efficient, and reliable when it comes to database decision making or pulling out data at a very short notice. Now, technology has also made HR move from transactions heavy departments or teams to the new role as business transformation teams. Let me repeat it again. Technology has made HR move from transaction heavy teams or a department to the new role as a business transformation team. I think HR is the old word. We should now call HR as a business transformation team or a group or a department, because the old kind of routine and transactional stuffs will be handled by the bots, and they will even give you answer to your regular queries that employee may want to ask from the HR department. They will even give you a real-time ESAT, right? So you can take corrective steps before your top performer decides to leave, or the there are some projects that company employees want the companies to roll out. Now, that said, the flip side is that many jobs in HR and some other departments will need a new job description, new JD, with new skill sets for an ever-changing role, right? So companies, I think, are in today's world should budget for skill upgradation programs every year in their budget. The CHROs must put a proposal where they seek a budget for skill upgradation for the employees who are going to be affected by the technology change. And I also want employees to own up their career also. So they must create a personal kitty for skill upgradation too. When companies either can't fund or they want to do a program of their own choice in terms of upskilling themselves. So I think this is where the technology will play a big role. One enabler, and the other side, uh, something that would kind of move people to upgrade their skills over a period of time, because next promotion may not be guaranteed. Even continuing the job is no longer guaranteed because the change is so fast, especially if you come to software side and other sites where AI is used today.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And it is highly relevant, considering now the changing landscape of how HR business partners or transformation partners, as you call it, they are now, because it's not just about transactions anymore. And of course, AI and technology is going to play a big part in it because a lot of it can actually be done by the tech part. So I mean, with those insights, what is the kind of challenges that you see HR leaders are encountering, and how can they be potentially addressed?
So the challenges that HR leader, I would guess, are facing is moving from the second row in the boardroom to the boardroom table. I think that's challenging for many companies and many HR folks of my fraternity. And because you need to constantly show validation over a period of time and prove that HR adds huge value to any discussion. And I am convinced that they add huge value because these are the guys, as I said earlier, are talking to cross section of the population at any given point of time. So their feel on the nerve and the pulse of the organization is far, far higher as compared to anybody else. And most importantly, I think, as I said earlier, HR teams need to handle much more. CHROs need to handle much more than only HR. They need to get exposure to business. They need to get exposure to marketing. They need to get exposure to what clients want from the company. They need to get exposure on many other departments. If they can get their hand and their even a small PNL is good enough to give them a very good exposure. And I think cumulatively this experience, which I also underwent, gave me a 360 degrees view of the business. So I was never blindsided when I spoke in the boardroom or in senior level meetings. And I never talked only about HR. I talked about various issues that I, as a CXO or a CHRO, see in the company
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
possible solutions to that.
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea. In fact, one of my next question pretty much addresses part of this particular answer. What would be your advice for young students or recent graduates who are now about to enter the domain of HR and are even hoping to pursue a career in this particular domain? What would be your advice to them?
So my first advice is listen to this podcast a number of times. No, jokes apart, I think I have shared a lot of tips and experience in how I have handled my career that may be good for somebody, may not be good for somebody. You make your own choice. Take some tips if you like them. It makes sense to you. Another advice to young guys is lead by example. Yeah. And remember, nobody is infallible. Don't hide behind your big or small titles. If you are infallible, you are infallible. In fact, I remember reading Jack Welch's book where he says, if you show that you are also infallible, it gives a lot of confidence to the employees below you to to kind of hold onto their views and mistakes they did, and they are also willing to learn. The point is, you should be able to willing with once you make a mistake. Another tip that has worked in my life is don't micromanage or get micromanaged by insecure managers. Personally, I have found human resources as a very fascinating, very engaging, and a challenging career. My sincere advice to young audience is to find yourself a good mentor. And after you have spent some time in HR, raise your hand for new assignments, take on new work, take on new roles, take on new geographies, take on new departments. And if you are a decent performer, a keen learner, most importantly, and serious about your professional journey, you will succeed in most of your endeavors. So I wish all the best to the guys who want to cheer are listening to this podcast.
Great, great. Thank you for that again advice and insight, Sanjay. So with that, we come to a close to our podcast episode. I'd really like to thank you for your time and for sharing your insights. And I'm sure all our podcast listeners would be delighted actually to hear a lot of insights from an experienced person.
No, I love the conversation. I loved your questions, and it is always good to talk to people indirectly nowadays, not directly too much, of things that have worked for you and things that have not worked for you, and make your own decisions in life.
Yeah,
All the best to everyone who listens to this podcast.
great, great. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
You too, Rahul. Take care. Bye bye.